Hi guys and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to yet another episode reaction for the Summer Hikaru Died. Today we're going to be checking out episode number 7. I just want to throw out a quick little apology for anyone that is watching this live the day it releases or shortly after. I know there was a little bit of a delay last week. There was only one episode reaction. I didn't get as much done as I was hoping. I did talk about previously where I was saying, I was trying to record and edit as much as I could because I had family visiting and I wasn't going to be, available for a week. So I'm trying now to play catch up. I'm going to still be trying to work towards getting that final episode reaction released on Halloween Day. So my goal right now is to try to not so much follow the structure that I've had, but make sure that I'm releasing these episodes in a timely fashion. Like I don't know, but yeah, we're gonna be checking this one out. I'm very excited. It has been a little longer than I would have hoped since I've checked out the most recent episode number 6. It's been more than a week, a week and a half probably, honestly, which is kind of scary because I'm hoping I remember just about everything. I feel like I do, for the record. I feel like I can recall just about everything, and I feel like I still know the whole series very well. But taking that long of a break when I'm used to watching a new episode every couple days, every few days or something like that, it is kind of like worrying for me. I don't like taking such long breaks while I'm in the middle of watching stuff. But yeah, regardless of that, I'm very excited to check out this episode. I hope that you guys are too. We'll get to see what comes of the whole situation that happened at the end of last episode with Hikaru almost killing Asuko. That was very terrifying, very worrying, and yeah, it's hard to put into words just how complicated these situations are. But I think that the storytelling and the way that everything has been laid out has been incredible so far. And I know that they're going to continue doing a great job going forward at presenting these ideas and presenting these complications and making this story so fleshed out. I love how deep this and rich this has been so far, and I cannot wait to continue watching this series. So yeah, if you guys do enjoy these videos, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you got up to last week, and of course hit the notification bell down below if you would like to be notified when these videos go live, and share this with anyone who you think might enjoy these videos. And yeah, there's a new hype button too. Hit that if you want. I don't really know how to promote that, but yeah, there's a new hype button. I don't know how it works, but it's there. Feel free to hit that if you would like. And yeah, we're gonna check this one out. Thank you for all the support in the series so far. It really means a lot, and I cannot wait to check out more. So here we go. The Summer Hikaru Died, episode number 7. Let's go. Someone dragging something? He's back. Oh, okay, he's recalling the conversation, yeah. So this is when he returned home that night. So we're getting to see that night from Yoshiki's perspective. What was that? Was that like a blade or something? Looked like a box cutter or something almost. Oh, look at the snake. See, the way that was like an almost happy looking family, but we know that his family isn't exactly the happiest. Yep. Hikaru doesn't know how to go about this. Yoshiki is being very weird, but that's because of all the circumstances. Oh? We're skipping school? Ferris Bueller Day? We are ditching school and we are gonna do whatever the hell we want. That is the goal here. I think this is gonna be a good one because it's probably going to be a Yoshiki Hikaru exclusive episode. At least that's my guess anyway. Hold up, was that the picture we just saw of Yoshiki's family that was on the phone? And then the knife falling? And I thought at the start of the episode it showed a knife? What's going on there? Okay, here we go. Choir concert. Oh, what was even the name of the episode? I didn't get to see it. It flashed so quick. They're skipping out in the choir performance? Duh. Is she dissociating?
普通に声かけたで。
おはよ
そうなん？聞こえんかった。なんでやろう。あれ？
What?
男子がな、合唱コンで振り付け入れよう。
Choreography? That could be fun.
何アホ。
Ah,
あの振り付けは無理やろ。
that ain't choreography. That's just waving an airplane to land. Oh shit! Yo, performance of the year? Add a new category to every award show for anime?
よしきがおれば止めるやろ。
Oh, Yoshiki would, but he ain't here.
まだ来とらんみたいやね。
And he won't be here. He won't be here either. This is very awkward. But we know the train is a big part of the ending.
学校サボってええの？
俺ら普段出席率ええし、あらせんも怒らんよ。
よしきは怒っとらんの？おとついの。
The handprint, he ain't mad. The focus on the handprint there. And Hikaru's eyes aren't glowing red.
蹴った全力疾走って難儀やな。
I'm sure it would
俺
be.
らや。
そうか。
We are not seeing Yoshiki's eyes this episode at all. I don't think we've seen them once yet.
寿司中さん、おはようございます。
おはよう。暑いな。
すね。今日もよろしくお願いします。
Yoshiki's father?
でも真夏にヘルメットは地獄っすね。帽子じゃダメ
Yeah, I bet.
安全第一やから。
Ah, yeah, seriously. Safety comes first, always. Every member of the family here.
なあ、今日もええの？いいよ。学校は無理して行くもんじゃない。
Okay. I mean, she's going through something and the mother seems to understand it or be willing to look past it. Oh, there's another dividing line. This series is crazy for these dividing lines. I love it. His favorite movie. Master Master! Oh shit, it's happening. The power of friendship. That night sky will become dawn tomorrow.
今からでも遅ない。おたけや
Ah,
めようや。
練習した。
no sign of either of the
今日は休み
boys.
なんかな。
え、まだ払いたか。
サボりやろ。ええな。
She's onto them. Oh, this cinematic. Okay, it's the flashback. Okay, I love this. That when it's doing flashbacks, it goes widescreen. It's got the cinematic feel and look to it. It definitely adds a lot here. Oh, and that's the first time I think we see his eyes, and it's
母さん、
him looking up in absolute distraught.
父さん。ごめん。
What's he gonna do? Why is he saying sorry? Is he trying to spend one last day with his friend before he tries to? Is that what's?
いや、
I mean, I know he's depressed and going through a lot, but
この映画見たがっとったやろ。
is he trying to spend one last day? Here we go, the performance of a lifetime. But I'm really kind of messed up right now about like what I think Yoshiki might be doing. Oh, did they play the piano themselves too? That's really cool. Are they gonna start dancing or have they ditched it? Oh wow. That's really good. Actually, that sounds really good. They're at work. They're the only ones. That was a very small theater. I bet it's very cozy. Keep seeking what you seek. That glow from the past, jeez. Oh wow, that harmonizing is insane. That sounds really good. Why is it blocking out his eyes, the other guy that's working with him? Chase after it. Wow, these lyrics are very relevant. Jeez. Keep chasing onward. And who are the two people that aren't here to sing that? The only two that aren't chasing onward, but
ありがとう
with Yoshiki looking
めっちゃ
backwards.
大事にするわヨシキはほんと優しいな
He wants to leave a good memory for his friend, is that it? Bliss, dear friend. Wandering soul.
どうしたの
Jeez.
急に電話してきて。
いやまあ元気かな思って
Oh, I'm not feeling good about this episode. Suddenly calling your mother. Damn, Yoshiki, I don't like what the that was a great performance.
よろしく
Take care. That was a literal farewell.
後で原線が撮った動画を送りつけようや。うん。
There won't be a later.
れてるところ迫力すごいっすね
Alright, what's gonna happen
見せ
here?
たら喜ぶんやないですか
喜ぶって年でもないし、息子とはほとんど喋っとらんよ。
そうなんすか
いろいろとな、難しくて。
Explain the complication.
いつにも増して声小さなかった。
Hmm.
つうかあいつ学校サボってない
She's realized. This is a beautiful
この川
view.
って海まで続いとるんかな
海行きたいんか
海ってでっかいよ
They
な
go into the beach
記憶の中にもぼんやりある
somewhere.
ヒカルとは学校帰りに行ってたな
Ah, it's the ending.
ここは山ばっかやからさまた行きたいなほんで泳ぎまくってサメ捕まえよ
Catch some sharks.
サメは簡単に捕まらんよ
そしたらお前をおとりにして
Shit.
こうサメが食うとる間に森でぐさーっと
死ぬやん
And there's a similar shot to earlier, but there's no dividing line this time.
夏休みとか
During our summer break.
ナイスやろ映画やろいろんなことを知るって楽しいわヨシキもおるし
I just don't think he's saying anything because he's thinking something else right now.
ええよ海行こう
Meh.
今度
Next time. What does next time mean, Yoshiki?
サボっても結局いつも通り好きにして遊ぶっつ
ええやろ別に外暑いしただいま
He says that every time. We heard it earlier too, at the start of the episode.
お邪魔します
Oh, there's also from the opening.
なあ
The little finger puff.
なんであんなに
Ron and Sumo?
ロンにとって妻は唯一の友達やからや
Ron definitely not a stand-in for Gone.
今日の合唱コンの動画送られてきたに
マジ結構うまいやん
They sound great.
そうやな
俺も行けばよかったかもな
Hikaru is really into it.
今嬉しさよとよ
He's gonna try to kill Hikaru? Oh jeez, okay, shit, that's what the knife was. Drop the phone? Oh my god. Yoshiki. Jeez, blood on his hands. And the blood makes him seem more human, right? I knew it, you won't die. But the blood does make him seem more human, which is the ironic thing here. Jeez. I thought it was going to be the other way about.
こうする気で
最後くらい楽しい思いさせたろって死なんのやったら殺してくれ
Oh no.
願いなんか
No.
俺に叶えてくれ。どうしたらいいよ、修道士。式のお願い。なんかせんと殺せ。
Oh, the way that turned into the tear.
泣いとる場合やない。俺はきっと命の扱いが軽いんや。俺にとっての当たり前は人間にとっては
It's not a big deal for you.
きっとそれが
But you know from the conversation with Yoshiki last episode that this is not okay.
何しとん。
待っとって。
What is happening? I was gonna ask, is this what connects him to Hikaru? Does that make him mortal now?
よしき、持っとって。俺の中身の半分や。
Jeez.
命の重さ。俺にはやっぱりようわからん。でもこれで簡単に人殺せんくらい小さなった。
As easily. He's weakened himself.
俺は自分が何なのかよう知らん。こうなる前は感情すらなかったと思うね。けど漠然と居場所がないって感覚だけはあって、最初はさ、俺はお前にバレたら殺せばええって思っとった。
Yep, we saw that in episode 1.
殺した
It was the request of Hikaru to have someone stand by his side, and also you grew attached to him as well. Whether it was Hikaru's memories or yours, who
受
knows?
け入れてくれたよな。その時初めて俺が必要ないやって、ここにいてええんやって思った。ずっとそれが足りんかったんやって。お前は俺の居場所になってくれたやろ。
Ah, it's a dependency.
今のすり込みや。
A baby bird, yeah. Yeah, literally.
それでもええに。俺にとってはそれでも。
Damn.
こいつが命のことをようわからんのも当然や。見えとる世界が。
Yeah, his world and your world, like, they intersect, as we learned in the last episode from Asuko's grandmother, but wow, look at that, and a line yet again.
何度も。
But he's crossing it. He's reaching across. And like daybreak, you know, yeah. Damn.
アホやな。
The veil.
どこまでもお前に付き合うよ。たとえ俺の何かが壊
Jeez.
れても。
Even if.
お前ここにおったらあかん存在なんやと。
Yeah, certainly not.
せやけどお前の望みがここにおることなんやったら。
Jeez, the whole day is just being tarnished by blood.
お前が一体
Oh shit.
何者なんか。
Jeez. Oh my god, this horror imagery right now is crazy. Jeez. I don't know if that was supposed to be Hikaru's thinking or what? Like what he was thinking in those moments? Well, first things first. That was episode number 7 of the Summer Hikaru Died. But holy shit. That was an intense, insane, incredible episode. And yeah, this will be cut out of the edit and post and everything, but yeah, I'm gonna take a little break to kind of process what I just saw, because that was a lot. So yeah, you guys won't see any of that, of course. It'll just be a jump cut straight to the actual post-episode analysis. But yeah, I'm gonna take a little break here because I need to process what I just saw. So yeah, see you guys in like 1 second. That was an incredibly, I don't even know like the right word to describe that episode. It was quite like dense in like the like what it had within it. Like it had quite a lot packed in there, but also it was mostly focused on this idea of Yoshiki kind of pushing himself to the place where he realizes that what he needs to do is it's like he needs to kill off that idea of Hikaru. But the irony here is that that idea of, you know, killing off the idea of someone and, you know, moving on, as the lyrics are kind of like saying, but when he goes to kill it off, say goodbye to all that, it won't go. And you can kind of take that in a couple of ways, you know, like the way that I'm looking at that is that from a critical perspective, like an analysis perspective, Yoshiki is the one who goes to kill him off, but he can't do it. I know that it's more so that, you know, like you can flip the script and be like, well, you know, this dependency on Yoshiki from Hikaru and everything. So, you know, you can play it in a sense of Hikaru wouldn't let Yoshiki kill him because of how dependent he is on him. And I'm saying kill him, I mean like the relationship, kill the way they are with one another, Yoshiki moving on and everything like that. That's what I'm kind of talking about when I say kill him. Hikaru doesn't allow it, but also, you know, from a literal what we see perspective, you know, he's not able to. Hikaru is so dependent on Yoshiki that it doesn't happen. And you can look at it in another way, that Yoshiki was not able to kill off that idea of Hikaru. After that, he literally himself is like talking about how he can't say goodbye and how they will, you know, be friends. And, you know, it's very interesting to see the way that scene plays out. And yeah, this episode really filled me with a sense of dread. Quite early on, honestly, like around the time where it kind of became clear that the language Yoshiki was using was almost like language of someone that was about to kill themselves. Yeah, it really had me worried because it just really seemed like that was the way it was going. And so it makes me wonder then if his plan was to kill off this fake Karu and then himself, which is really, really sad to think about, because it almost seems then like if Hikaru isn't there, he doesn't see a point in living, he doesn't see a reason to continue living. But at the end of the day, Hikaru isn't here. This is something else in the place of Hikaru. And that becomes super obvious and clear the more and more the series continues, that this is not his Hikaru. This is a different being altogether. And the language that this Hikaru uses a lot emphasizes that, you know, saying some stuff as simple as, I've got memories stored somewhere in my mind, but I don't know where. That's not you. That's someone else. That's something else entirely. But anyway, we're going to take this back to the beginning of the episode, where I will make a little correction that I, you know, made a mistake of early on during the analysis of, or during the reaction of the episode, where I said that we never saw Yoshiki's eyes until a little later in the episode, and that is not the case whatsoever. We see a flashback where he goes home and, you know, like we hear the door creaking and it feels uneasy, it feels, you know, weird, like what is that weird noise that we're hearing, followed by I'm back or I'm home. I can't remember what it is that he says, but that's what he does every time when he enters through the front door. So he's very respectful and he follows like a structure, like a rule set, like he does what he's supposed to do. And that's kind of what that tells us. And he's a very good person, you know, he takes his shoes off and everything, but we see him then when he's in his bedroom, he's just got his head down on a desk and he is not lifting it. He is just, he's defeated. Like he just looks like he's done and fed up, and he can't see anything, he can't think, he can't, like he's just done. He's frustrated and he is done. And that's when we see a really quick glance of a knife coming flashing towards our face, and it's very quick and it's very shocking almost, right? But that starts to get the mind wondering, what is the deal with this knife? What does that mean? What is going to happen now that we've seen this knife? Is that going to be something that plays a part in this episode? Is that something that played a part in his past that maybe he's thinking about here because he's thinking about his family, because he has the picture that he looks at and everything? Like, so many questions that were going through my mind, and it was hard to kind of figure out what that knife could have meant. I did honestly at one point think it was related to something that ended up happening with his father, because his father is no longer in the picture. But we follow up this, scene of him looking towards the camera and seeing this glimpse flash of a knife by showing him staring at his phone, which shows a picture of his family all together. which creates this illusion of living a lie. Because we know his family is not a happy family that lives together. There is a lot of drama, a lot of tension, and the father is not in the picture from what we understand. So what reason does he have that this is his like screensaver on his phone and everything like that? Like, it's doing a good job at immediately setting up these false narratives, these false images, I guess. I don't know how to better describe that, where we see something that isn't real, we see something that isn't true. Hikaru, that describes him perfectly, right? And this image also presents that, but it's still something that Yoshiki holds dear to him. So he's not someone who can just let go of these things. And as the father later in the episode says, it's complicated. We don't know what happened, we don't know what it is, but something complicated is the reason for why they don't see each other, why they don't hear from each other, talk to each other, anything like that. But we see that Yoshiki still keeps that image and holds it dear to his heart, and that comes up again when he is saying to his mother to tell the father to take care. Everything we see here, with like, these are just very simple things that the episode does, where it shows us an image of his family. But when you think about it, there's so many layers to that image alone and him looking at it. And that's one thing that I cannot give this series enough praise for, that it tells you a story that isn't necessarily in your face when you stop to think about it. There's going to be things within this series that I don't catch, or that I miss, or that goes over my head, or that, you know, add little extra layers that I'll completely miss, because there's just so much. I did catch this very early on when I was reacting to the episode, where I was surprised that he had this image of the family, because they are not a happy family, but it presents that image of a happy family. And then that's when we cut immediately to Yoshiki with Hikaru, where there is not necessarily this happy relationship between them, but there's this facade at the same time. And so Hikaru is the one who is thinking to himself, this is weird. Why is he not talking about what happened? Is he mad? What's going on? Like, this just doesn't feel right. When normally we're used to a lot of these thoughts kind of coming from Yoshiki, not Hikaru. And so Yoshiki kind of just blurts out, I wonder how the choir practice is going to go. I hope that it goes well, blah, blah, blah. And that's when Yoshiki basically just says, we're going to skip school today. Which is very surprising, because something we know about Yoshiki is that he is someone who follows the rules, does what he's supposed to do, and is very good in that sense. And that's something I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, or this post-hoc analysis, when I said that, you know, about him coming home and he said, I'm here. He follows a structure, he follows a rule layout, like he does what he's supposed to do at all times. So when he decides to skip school, that is not him. That is very unlike him and very surprising, in all honesty. And I now see that the episode title here is Determination, which is an interesting title, in all honesty. A lot of the other episode titles kind of, you know, are very obviously relevant to what you see in the episode, whereas Determination, I feel like, isn't as, you know, sum up in one wordy about this episode. I feel like, yeah, it makes sense, the determination of Yoshiki, that he gets himself to this place to do what he is going to do and everything. And yeah, very interesting episode title. Very cool Undertale reference, obviously, duh. Strange and interesting, but I kind of dig it, I like it. And this is when we cut back to school, and while I was checking out this episode at this point, well, during the opening, I was suspecting that this episode would be solely the Yoshiki and Hikaru episode. There would be nothing else showing anyone else within this episode, and this immediately proved me wrong with those thoughts, because we cut to school where everyone is buzzing. There's so much excitement about this choir, and they're ready to throw down. They're ready to go and prove that they are the best class. One of the ways that they wanted to separate themselves from the others is by doing choreography, or more so it was Maki that wanted to do that. Something really interesting happens with Asuko, where they're in the classroom, and the long-haired girl, forgive me for not knowing her name, walks up to her and is like, hello, and she does not hear her. She ignores her almost completely. It's not until she touches her arm that she freaks out and is like, oh, I didn't know you were there, I didn't hear you. So a couple of questions then that I have. Does that mean that her hearing, because it focuses on her ear and she kind of points to it, does that mean that her hearing, when she hears all the ghosts, as she calls them, like that's not really working right now? Or is it that it's been amplified and it's harder to hear things that are right in front of her? Kind of like to talk about ReZero, Otto, when he was a child. Or maybe a third option, maybe she just had too much on her mind considering what happened with Hikaru and everything. You know, obviously she doesn't remember all of the stuff, but they had a conversation after she woke up and she knows that he is possessed. So yeah, I'm gonna have to be paying attention to Asuko to figure out what is going on with her here. And then we get a performance from Maki. And yeah, I made a joke about how it looks like he's conducting the landing of an airplane here because of the sticks and the way he's like just flailing his arms around. And yeah, it's very humorous. Maki is an absolute blast of a character. He brings so much fun and levity to the world, and he's just an absolute bright, fun person to be around. Like I love following him because he brings a lot of entertainment to the series. And yeah, he starts then to pull out the sickest performance of the year in anime. He raps, and yeah, he does an incredible job with it. Yeah, I don't know why, but he just did a great job, and I think that's really funny. I wonder how that looks in the manga. I'd be very interested if it's just like, you know, panels of him like staring into the screen kind of with a microphone in his hand or something like that. I think that would be very, very funny. And yeah, everything about his mannerisms during this rap are just so cool, which is so much funnier because he's such a dork. So yeah, seeing him act all cool, it feels very strange to see, but it is very, very funny. And then that's when the girls say, hey, I bet Yoshiki could take care of whatever is happening right now. He could figure something out and he could come up with, you know, a good answer, a solution, something that would help. And they notice that they aren't there, both Yoshiki and Hikaru. And the girls are like, oh, that's strange. I guess Yoshiki's still sick, or at least Asuko says that. And the other girl says, or they could be playing hooky. So she gets it. She's the realist, she's the pessimist at the same time. And it kind of shows you the dichotomy of those two characters where one is more optimistic than the other. And then, of course, that's when we see the two boys on the train on the way somewhere. Who knows where they're going at this point, but they're on a train. And this, of course, reminded me of the ending for the series that is attached to this, where we see them on a train. It's a very prominent part of the ending theme, the ending song, the ending visuals. So yeah, the whole thing with the train, right? Obviously related to the ending, you know, iconography with the train and everything. And trains, I guess, you know, trains can be used for symbolism of like, you know, taking you from one place to another. Maybe, you know, like it could be literally, or, you know, they could be used in like a metaphoric kind of sense. I'm not sure that's kind of what this is doing here. Maybe it is because, you know, this is about Yoshiki trying to take Hikaru places that he wants to go and, you know, spend a nice day. So it's kind of, but also not really. I feel like this is more literally just taking you from one place to another, but it is still very interesting that the symbolism in the ending of having the train is present here, and it reminds us a lot of that. And, you know, one other interesting thing is that this episode does not play the ending theme at the end. It does not show ending visuals because it's very cinematic, this episode. It's definitely one that you can say they might have been building up towards, I would say. And there is definitely kind of this sense of this is a big episode. You know, you can tell when they were doing up the storyboards and like figuring out what was going to go where and fleshing out episodes and stuff. You can kind of tell that within this episode they knew that this was a big one, and we as viewers sense that very early on, and we feel that now that we finished the episode. This was a truly special one. I think it's great that despite the fact we don't get the ending, you know, we still get reminded of the ending throughout this episode. And one other cool thing is that in the previous episode, the ending, I don't think we saw the visuals, but the song was playing over the episode itself. So it's been like 3 episodes ago since we saw those ending visuals, I believe, at this point. But like I said, it's cool that we still get some of that same iconography and visuals from that ending within this episode, because we see a little later on when they talk about the beach, we see a shot that I believe is from the ending, I could be wrong though, of them standing on the beach, big space between them during the winter, and they're looking out towards the ocean. Great job at reminding us of that ending within this episode without actually showing us the ending itself. But when they're on the train, when it first shows them, it looks so awkward. They are sitting across from each other and nobody is talking. And one other cool thing, I guess, that I could point out in reference to train and movement and stuff, the way that they're seated, the way that they're sat, I could be wrong here, but I think they're on opposite sides from the seats that they sit on during the ending. I think it's Hikaru that's sitting on the right seat on the screen and Yoshiki sitting on the left. Again, I could be wrong there, but within this episode, we see Yoshiki on the right side and Hikaru on the left. And Yoshiki is on the side of the train where he is facing out and he's technically moving backwards from where he's faced. That could be used as symbolism for he's moving backwards, he's going back, he's going back to old Hikaru, he's giving Hikaru a good time based on things that he knows he liked and everything like that. It's like he's moving backwards in time, whereas Hikaru is moving forward. Hikaru, this fake Haru, is moving forward with his life and he doesn't know what's to come. He doesn't know himself, and so he's living life in a looking towards the present sort of way, whereas Yoshiki is looking towards the past in just about every sense when he is with this version of Hikaru. So yeah, some subtle symbolism I would say there potentially for what happens within this episode, perhaps. Incredibly well done here that they don't actually literally tell us any of these things, and this is still at the point where Yoshiki, his bangs have been covering his eyes, so it makes him look lifeless. It makes it difficult to learn how he feels and get a grasp of how he is, what he's doing, what's going on. You can't get a read on him, which is why I love the decision to give him this long hair covering his eyes. And we see this several times throughout the series, the fact that we don't see his eyes so easily and it's like a veil. The way that we see it, we can't get a read on him, but the way that it's probably done for Yoshiki is that his hair is covering his eyes, so he doesn't have to see Hikaru here. He doesn't have to look at the horror that is his friend that has been left behind with something else taking over the body. He's distancing himself from Hikaru with his hair because it's acting as a veil. It's acting as a barrier between this person, this thing that was once his best friend. And then this is where we start to see Yoshiki act out of character. He's not being himself. He talks about how their attendance record is so incredible that nobody will even question why they aren't at school. They have such great track records because they're such good kids that nobody's going to question it. So they're allowed to do this one bad thing, right? And yeah, it's very strange because this is not Yoshiki. This is not how he is at all. And while he's on this train, he's got his hand up, resting his hand against his cheek against the windowsill on the train, and it's making it clear he's still got that mark on his arm. They're showing us that that mark is still there. A part of Hikaru will always be with him, and it's his handprint, this lasting handprint of a moment of, you could say like destruction or like something bad or evil. Kind of plays into the whole narrative of this episode where the Hikaru that Yoshiki knew would never have left that hand mark on him, never have left that lasting mark, that this symbolizes the change and something different, something with malice. A really great visual indication of that, and we're shown it right here as Yoshiki is not looking at anyone or anything, and we can't even see his eyes, but we're reminded of this mark. And so when they're on the train, after Yoshiki says this about, ditching school because nobody's going to be mad because of their attendance record, Hikaru's like, are you sure you're not mad? In relation to what happened when he almost killed Asako, right? And Yoshiki not looking at him, not really saying much, not changing expression. We get a close-up of just his mouth, which doesn't move, and he's silent for a considerable amount of time considering what was just asked, maybe 5+ seconds here, which you can sense the tension. You feel every moment of those seconds, and this feels like a very awkward, long drawn out pause. But as soon as he answers, he says, "I ain't mad," and it goes from light to dark. They're cast in shadows, and Yoshiki has a shadow cast over him because he is not ready to forget and forgive. This is the first sign that everything is not as it seems, and everything is not okay. This is not good, this is not right, this is not normal, this is not okay. And the shadow indicates that, because it's not until they go into the shadow that he responds by saying, "I ain't mad." And I guess you could look at this in a sense that he wasn't telling any lies. Maybe he isn't mad, but he's certainly feeling other things, and those other things are not so, easily explained, in this sort of situation. He can't just explain how he feels, why he feels the way he feels, and everything like that. He can't kill off the idea of Hikaru until he literally kills off Hikaru. Like, that's the only way he can think right now. And yeah, he ain't mad, he's just sad, he's depressed, and he's very, very upset. And he's probably very upset with himself more than anything, that he has let this fake Haru infiltrate his life this much. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting scene, and it's not even a long scene, and there's just so much to pick out here because of the awkward tension in the air. The way that everything's being done here, it's just very symbolic, and it's really well done. And then Yoshiki acts very strange, where he's very monotone-y, kind of talking about how cycling in this kind of heat would be torture and everything like that, and he's just still staring out the window as Hikaru is moving around. He's looking out the window, he's acting like, as a schoolboy, like a child who is just captivated and in awe of this world, and he's looking around full of curiosity and full of life. Whereas opposite him is Yoshiki, who is he's got like no life. He's just dead inside, it seems like, which is ironic considering the fact that it's literally Hikaru who is dead. But that's a really interesting one, because I hadn't even thought about this, but like, it's this weird opposite dynamic where Yoshiki is living but he's dead on the inside, and Hikaru is dead but he's alive on the inside, if that makes sense. Like, they're complete opposite in just about every sense. Even down to the hair color, white hair, black hair. And even when they're making jokes with each other and they're both laughing, it still feels very awkward, not okay, not normal, and just there's something strange, and this is not okay. And yeah, I think it's very interesting because in these scenes where we're seeing Hikaru, I've paused it, like, I'm going through the episode and I'm like looking at scenes and stuff, and while I was watching it, I was like, wow, like his eyes, there's no red in them whatsoever. I've paused it here, and it's a very like dull, like very hard to see almost red, where, because he's also in shadows and stuff as well with the train, one of his eyes does look dark, like there's no red in it, while the other looks red. So it's making me think, like, is this red glow in his eyes kind of like, I feel like I've referenced this before in the past, but when you're taking pictures, like, not anymore, but take yourself back to the, I don't know, 90s, early 2000s, 80s, whatever it was, when you would take pictures and someone's eyes would be in it and their eyes would be red because of the reflection of light and everything from the picture. It's making me think that maybe this red that we see in Hikaru's eye isn't necessarily that his eye is red, but it's the way light reflects off it that makes it look red to us. So maybe that's why people aren't so like weird about his eyes being suddenly red, because I've been wondering, like, up till now, like, why do people not question this? Why do not people not question why his eyes are suddenly red when they weren't before? And it's maybe because it's just the way the light reflects that makes it look that way, or maybe it's very meta in the sense that we're seeing it red because it's being recorded, through like a camera. Even though it's animation, it's not being recorded through a camera, but it's maybe meta. But I don't think that's the case. I feel like it's maybe to do with the reflection of light, but if it isn't, then yeah, I still wonder like why nobody's pointing out the fact that his eyes are red. But yeah, it's very interesting seeing Hikaru being the one with like sweat on his cheek and looking uncomfortable. You know, normally it's Yoshiki who's the one who's putting on a face, and he looks very uncomfortable around Hikaru, whereas this time it's the opposite. Hikaru is uncomfortable and feels awkward around Yoshiki. He doesn't know how to approach him and he doesn't know what to say. So I think that that's good though. I do like that despite everything that happened in the previous episode, we see introspection from Hikaru. We see him questioning like, why is that not okay? What's wrong? Like, what have I done? And how can I make this better? And he's actually recognizing problems within himself, and he's, you know, potentially going to work towards solutions. And I think that that's a great sign, the fact that he is recognizing these things and potentially willing to work towards changing. And then we get a really interesting scene change where we focus then on Yoshiki's father, who is out doing some logging work, it looks like. You know, so he's out in the middle of a forest, maybe the forest, but a forest regardless, with all these trees around, and there's some other guy working here who we don't see his face. It very interestingly covers his eyes and doesn't like show us who he is. I'm really bad with voices, so if I was any better with voices, I might recognize the voice, but I have no idea who that voice was. But yeah, I just think it's very strange and interesting that it doesn't show us who that is. I wonder if they're going to be important, or if it's just that it didn't show us who it was because they're not important. They're not really that relevant. They were just here to support the character of Yoshiki, where he would have someone to converse with, and that's kind of his only real relevancy within this. And yeah, we are shown this image of Yoshiki's father in a positive light. He doesn't look, you know, there's no arguing, there's no not wanting to spend time with his son or anything like that we've seen in the past, where it, you know, it was very clear from the past that the whole family was just, it wasn't okay. The mother and father were always arguing. Yoshiki and his father, when we saw a flashback of him as a child, they didn't really talk to one another. There was like a space and like a gap between them, and it felt like either Yoshiki or the father was estranged from the rest of the family. And, you know, now seeing that the father is off doing work in God knows where, you know, who knows if it's even close to home, who knows if he's even staying at home. It doesn't seem to be that he's staying at home because we never see him at home, but yeah, he is off doing this work, and he's presented in a not so negative light, who can make those bonds and relationships because he's bonding with this other guy. And I wonder if the whole point of this scene is that this other guy is maybe close in age to Yoshiki, but not exactly, you know, the same age or anything. I don't think he's comparable to Yoshiki at all, but maybe it's showing us that he could potentially be a good guy, but it's just with his own family, there's some weird shit going on there. I'm not trying to paint him as this good guy or anything. I really just want to know more about this family. I want to know more about the Tsujinaka family, I think they're called. And yeah, he's a very interesting character because we know so little about him, but I feel like there has to be something. But yes, like we do see someone who is looking forward to working with Tsujinaka here. And yeah, he's laughing. He's, you know, he just seems like a normal guy, right? He's like, oh, we don't cut corners around here. You know, if a tree falls on your head and you're just wearing a normal hat, that's not gonna work. And yeah, he seems kind of blunt and straight, but then, you know, he does start laughing, and he just seems like a guy on the job who's having fun. And then we cut to Kaoru. I think it's Kaoru, maybe it's Kaori, I can't remember, and she is staring out the window, kind of similar to Yoshiki, where, you know, it's showing her facing the left of the screen, but, you know, we see her face and everything, unlike Yoshiki when he was on the train, and she's looking out the window. She looks very sad, very down, and she's got like a school bag wrapped up into her chest, into her like stomach, and she just isn't happy. She just looks very down, and I need to know more about what's going on with her because I just feel so bad. I feel like there's a lot going on in her life that we haven't been made aware of yet, and we kind of just linger on that for a bit, and then she reaches forward and asks her mother, is it okay today too? And that is in relation to not going to school, and the mother says that it's fine, it's okay, and that there's no point in forcing yourself to go to school. And I don't think she means like, oh, school, there's no need for school. School is not important. I don't think that's what she's saying here. But that might be how some people read this. I think what she's saying is that it's okay for you because, you know, of what you've got going on. And I know about your anxieties. I know about what's going on in your life. And you don't want to go and it would be too much for you. And I think she's being a good mother for her child here. I know that there might be some dispute over like social services or stuff like that, you know, coming and, you know, saying this, the child has to go to school, you know, blah, 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 parenting, blah, blah, blah. But I think she's being a good mother to her child, a child who is going through some stuff that only she might be aware of here. But it's just sad that this whole family's drama is gossip to the whole townspeople. So I do kind of admire the relationship that these family members have with one another, especially the mother and daughter. They do seem to be very close. They spend a lot of time together, and we see that later on in the episode then when the child Kaoru is with the mother in her working place, the salon. And that of course is when we cut back to Hikaru and Yoshiki walking, and there is a considerable gap between them, and it makes it very obvious to us. It shows us that time and time again when the scene starts with them walking. There's one walking way in front of the other. When it shows them, you know, showing the front of them with Hikaru kind of in the background looking a lot smaller, and then a little after that where it shows the gap because we're seeing a side view of them walking along, and there's this big board thing like this, I don't know what it is, in the middle between them, blocking them off and making it look like they are on complete opposite sides of like a fence, a wall or something from one another. There is this literal huge space between them, and that couldn't be more obvious from this episode. The content of this episode, obviously, I don't know what more to say. It's so present, it's so in your face, and it's so uncomfortable, and it makes you feel off. The whole episode is directed and presented in such a way to make it so clear that everything is not okay here, and things aren't okay, things will not be okay, and that this is not going to be a happy-go-lucky Ferris Bueller skips day kind of day off school. This is something else. And Yoshiki says they're going to go see a movie. They're going to go see Hikaru's favorite, and that being of course Master plus Master, the everybody's favorite Hunter x Hunter rip-off series. They're doing Greed Island, I guess you could call it Avarice Isles arc within this movie, it would seem, for Master plus Master, Master, I guess you would just say. And I think it's so funny, I think it's so cool, and you know, the content of the movie as well, I'm not going to skip ahead because it's coming up, but yeah, it does seem very Hunter x Hunter-esque, and I think it's really cool. And within this poster for Master, it says down the middle of the poster, Power of Friendship, and that is very, very relevant for this episode, of course, and of course the entire season, the entire series as a whole. And then we cut to another class singing the classic song that we've been hearing them practice for episodes, for like 5+ episodes at this point. We hear them singing this song once again. It's a different class this time, and we're getting to see more of the lyrics for this song. And Asuko is starting to worry about the fact that the boys aren't here, and she's thinking back to then the night where everything went down. And then, you know, it cuts to the scene where it made me very worried, and this is only 7.5 minutes into the episode, and granted, 1.5 minutes of that was for the opening, so 5 minutes of episode content in, and I'm starting to worry about our main character of Yoshiki here, because he looks at a picture of his family after, you know, everything went down with Hikaru, and then he says, Mom, Kaoru, and then there's a pause, and then he says, Dad, I'm sorry. And I genuinely thought we were going to see something really terrible within this episode, something that he would have done to himself, and I just felt like that's where that was going, and I was really feeling worried. But I'm glad it didn't go in that direction, though I suspect it might have if Hikaru had actually died within this episode when he was stabbed. So after he says sorry and the screen kind of cuts to black then in a very dramatic and thematic kind of way, we cut straight to Hikaru watching the movie with his head cocked and his mouth open and his eyes wide. He is like a child. He is like a puppy who is just witnessing something for the first time. He's so doughy-eyed and he's so childlike, just watching the screen and just seeing what's in front of him, experiencing all these wonders. And so then he turns and looks at Yoshiki, who's just staring at the movie. He's not reacting. He's got no expression on his face. He's doing nothing but just stare dead ahead, which yet again was keeping me worried, especially after what we just saw. But Hikaru is worried that Yoshiki is still mad, and Yoshiki says, I'm not mad, let's just watch the movie. And they kind of then within the movie start to talk about friendship, and he's one of the characters like, some person is my only friend, and it doesn't finish the word with the D at the end. It just cuts away, which is very ominous. He doesn't finish saying the word friend and it cuts to black. So what does that tell you, right? In an episode about this strained friendship, the word friend, we don't even get to see the word friend being finished. It's very uncomfortable, the feeling of seeing all these different things play out the way they do. And then that's when our class, the class that we've been following, goes out on stage to perform Shadow of Our Days, I think the song was called. And yeah, they absolutely did an incredible job. They sang this so well. It was very beautiful. I love the harmonizing, and yeah, I'm so glad we got to hear this performance because it was beautiful. It was stunning, but it was also a little haunting with the way the lyrics are, like the actual content of the lyrics and the piano keys playing over it. I've already talked about the piano keys where they sound kind of off-putting and somewhat melancholic, considering the lyrics kind of toy with this idea of a sadness but moving forward, and not being alone, this shadow, this other being beside you. Like, it feels off, but it also feels uplifting because the message of the lyrics are kind of presenting this idea of moving forward with someone by your side, but that's opposing the kind of off-putting piano keys. Like, it's not entirely off-putting, but it doesn't sound as upbeat and uplifting. And yeah, I've already talked about all that, so I'm not going to say much more. But of course, ironically, when they're singing about these the content of the lyrics, it's ironic then that there is an empty gap, an empty space where Hikaru and Yoshiki should be. And it's worth pointing out, they don't do any of their dances, they don't do a rap intermission or anything like that. They just sing their hearts out, and it's beautiful, it's authentic, and it's real. The lyrics talk of winter melting into spring, and that can kind of be related to the fact that, Hikaru died during the winter, but it's now summer, and this is when he's really dead because now Yoshiki knows. Whereas before, he was kind of playing with the idea of maybe not. Whereas now Yoshiki knows the truth, and so this idea of winter melting into spring, winter melting into spring into summer, it's maybe sort of telling us about Yoshiki, how he feels and everything. And yeah, it's just very sad. The lyrics are talking about, wishing the best forward, putting your best foot forward towards the future, basically. And as it's saying all of this, we get glimpses of Yoshiki's family, which yet again is making me nervous, because why is it that they're talking about the future and positivity in the future and moving towards the future while it shows his family members? What is Yoshiki going to do? Because these lyrics are very much about him here and how he's feeling and everything like that. And we see everyone just going about their normal everyday lives, and that's what makes it even more off-putting and just feel more uneasy, because this does not seem like a normal day for Yoshiki and Hikaru, especially with Yoshiki. Hikaru is here and there acting like his normal silly self, especially within this scene where he starts to smile and there's like this effect coming off him with the sparkles and everything, and it seems to be right after the movie ends, and he seems to have really enjoyed it. And so he just just wants to talk. He wants to, speak about the movie, and he just keeps yapping and yapping and yapping to Yoshiki, who's just staring dead ahead. He's not listening. Well, he might be listening, but he's not looking at him. He's just staring dead ahead. The lyrics are talking about secretly seeking from the past or something. I can't remember the exact lyrics. Even if it fails to reignite the glow from the past. So the lyrics are kind of telling Yoshiki, I would guess, to continue doing what he's doing, basically, even if it doesn't lead to what he hopes. It's not reigniting that flame that he had in the past with Hikaru or anything like that. So yeah, it's just very interesting. And yeah, every scene between Yoshiki and Hikaru, it just feels very off. We see Yoshiki come out of a little convenience store and tossing an ice lolly, ice cream, whatever it is, to Hikaru, and Hikaru just stunned, staring up at him with his mouth open. He doesn't know who this guy is. He doesn't know how to react around him, how to be himself, what to say around him, because everything is very strange, and even Hikaru is sensing it, which I think is very, very cool and interesting here. Yoshiki is just trying to act like nothing is any different. He's just trying to act so nonchalant and just continue to have this day with Hikaru. And yeah, these lyrics are very sad considering everything that has gone on between these two boys. The lyrics are talking about, dear friends and looking towards a glimmer of light from the past and everything. And, it's very much about like, look at what came before and work towards the future and getting towards that point again. Or maybe I'm completely misinterpreting, and maybe it's more so like looking to the past and failing to see a future, considering the way you see the past. Maybe it's kind of like a rose-colored glasses type deal. I'd love to hear if there are different interpretations or better interpretations of this song. I would love to hear them down below, because it can come across very much like someone who's constantly chasing after something that is no longer there. And maybe it's kind of, the sadness of doing that, and the sadness of, not being able to attain those goals because the best times of your life being behind you, kind of thing, or something like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, I love that we got those interspliced shots and scenes within that little song there, where we were seeing Yoshiki's family, Yoshiki and Hikaru, and of course the school singing. Yoshiki the madman wins some finger puppets from a crane game, because we know he is cracked at these crane games because of his younger sister, and these are the little finger puppets that we see within the opening of the main characters from Master, and he won this for Hikaru because Hikaru is such a huge fan of Master, and he really appreciates it, and he's really happy and glad that Yoshiki was able to win this for him. And Yoshiki gives a complete dead stare into Hikaru when Hikaru says, "You're the nicest guy ever," because Yoshiki knows what he's about to do. Yoshiki knows what he's going to do at some point within this episode, and that makes these words probably just sting, because yeah, and also like something that we learned a while back, it seems like Hikaru, the real Hikaru, was not really someone to give out these compliments and say all these nice things about their friendship and about how much he cares for Yoshiki or anything like that. So these words that Hikaru says here with, you're really the nicest guy ever, that might just further go to make Yoshiki feel a certain way, because his Hikaru would not have said or said these things, right? And yeah, the performance continues and it's absolutely stunning, and that's when we get a scene of Yoshiki calling his mother, and within this scene, it's very, very funny because Kaoru is holding the phone up so that the mother can hear Yoshiki, and Yoshiki is supposedly speaking quite quietly, as Kaoru says later in the episode, and the mother's just like, "Why are you calling all of a sudden? What's wrong? Blah, 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 blah." And she's trying to cut someone's hair here. Yoshiki is just checking up on his mother. He wants to make sure she's okay. And when he learns that she is okay, he says that's good. And it's the first time we see him smile in a sincere looking way all episode, without it looking forced or without it looking weird or creepy or something just not normal. he smiles and says he's glad, and then he thanks his mother. And as he's saying thank you, a tree begins to fall because it's been chopped down. And yeah, it's making you think of, you know, the death of something, you know, the death of a tree. It's falling over, it's toppling over, and this phone call could represent the death of Yoshiki because it's the last time he will speak to his mother if things had gone a certain way that it seemed like things were probably going to go within this episode. But obviously that didn't happen at the end of the episode. And yeah, it's just very strange. It's just very upsetting, in all honesty, seeing this symbolism, the imagery paired with this phone call that can sound quite normal and innocent, but deep down it isn't. And we get those shots then of the school celebrating, his class celebrating that they've finished their song, and it was great. They're all so pleased and happy. And then we see Yoshiki just standing there with this light intersecting across him. You know, he's half in light. Well, he's mostly in light with some darkness behind him. Like, the darkness is behind him. The, you know, the lyrics about the shadow following it, and, you know, being about the past, and just everything. It feels very thematic from the shots then of what we see where he's looking at his phone and he says, "Tell Dad I said take care." And that's a goodbye right there, if ever I heard one. The kids, of course, Yoshiki and Hikaru's friends, start to say like, "Oh, we'll send then the video that Hara took. I'm sure they'd really enjoy it." And then we immediately get a scene with Yoshiki's father again, where the kid that he works with is like, "Hey, I wonder if your son would enjoy watching the tree that we just cut fall." And the father's like, "Nah, he doesn't enjoy things like that. He's too old." So it's two very different scenes about like, oh, he'll enjoy that, oh, he won't enjoy that. It makes you wonder like, well, who knows him more, the friends or the father? And I would suspect the friends. Just because he's older doesn't mean he can't enjoy things anymore. Like, yeah, watching a tree fall might not be the most exciting thing, but, you know, say someone in a family member or whatever wanted to show you something like this, you wouldn't just be like, "Oh my god, get away from me, don't show me that, that's so boring." Like, you wouldn't just start calling them unk or something, right? You would actually watch it and be like, "Wow, that's cool." Even if you don't necessarily care, you would still give them that. We kind of learn then that he and his son don't have the best relationship, which makes you wonder what happened in the past, what went down, and what is making him so estranged from the rest of the family at this point. So he says it's complicated and that he doesn't really talk to his son, but it's nice to see that Yoshiki, like, it's both sad but nice to see that Yoshiki, his family screensaver on his phone, is the entire family, not the family without his father. And he still wishes for his father to know that he wishes him the best before he would have done what I suspect we all thought he was going to do. So Yoshiki still thinks about his father. He might have daddy issues or something, or there's something there within his life. Like, let's be real, Yoshiki needs therapy. I'm not here to unpack what's going on with Yoshiki because I don't fully understand it or understand him, especially his relationship with his father, but there is something deep rooted there with his father that needs to be unpacked. And so once again we see Yoshiki walking forwards with the shadow of his past, Hikaru, behind him, and they're walking alongside a riverbed. It is very beautiful. The scene it looks stunning with the bridge in the back, the distance and everything, and the way that they're walking towards the light of the water as well. We see the reflection with, you know, a darker hue on the right and then like a lighter pinky purple on the left. It's very beautifully well done here, and it's genuinely stunning seeing the visuals within this series time and time and time and time again. And so they start to talk about the ocean and everything, and then Hikaru recalls a memory somewhere in his mind of a time that they went to the beach during the winter. And yeah, it's a very clearly important and you know, great memory for Yoshiki, because that kind of makes him stop and it makes him look very sad, in all honesty. And it's also maybe the first time we hear Hikaru kind of phrase something in a certain way where he says, "You went with Hikaru, didn't you?" Like, it's very much you went with someone else, which, it's so complicated. It's so sad that this other being is living within his friend, because he's got these memories of something he didn't live. He wants to go to the beach. He wants to go with Yoshiki, and he's like, I'm getting sick of these mountains, and you know, the mountain being a very relevant and important aspect of this series, and he wants to go hit the beach. So it's just, yeah, there's a lot here. And despite Yoshiki being very upset and sad, he still tries to put on a face. He still tries to, you know, act a certain way and seem a certain way when Hikaru talks about catching a shark. And he's like, well, you know, it's not so easy to catch a shark. And he's got a smile on his face. So he's trying, but he's not trying as hard as he has in the past, because you can tell that he's trying very much here. Like, if you compare this with the previous episode, when they're, like, the beginning of the previous episode when they were in the school, he was sitting there and they were talking about all this stuff, and he would just, you could tell he was trying, because he would just be like looking down, and then he would bounce up and he would say something all like upbeat and something, and yeah, he was masking very well there, whereas here I feel like he's not masking so well. Hikaru is very much enjoying the whole day that they had, and he says he could get used to this, and he hopes that they can do more. He hopes they can go to the beach and do all this stuff again during summer break, which must be coming up soon, who knows. And yeah, he says, I'm enjoying doing all this, especially with you, Yoshiki. And Yoshiki looks down. He's very just in his feels right now, and he's experiencing a lot. He's thinking a lot, and knowing what he was going to do, or knowing what he did at the end of this episode, that had to be weighing on his mind, hearing all these words, and you know, it's making him feel doubts, and it's making him just feel certain ways. And it's when he says, especially with you, that he puts that veil in front of his eyes, like he blocks out his eyes once again, creating a barrier, a distance between the words that Hikaru is saying and himself. And of course, Hikaru literally and himself. And when Hikaru says, you know, we should go do that, like, if you want to, Hikaru is watching Yoshiki, and Yoshiki is staring straight down. And there's a long pause here. Something I love that this series does is creating these and maintaining these long pauses, these breaks in the episode where nothing is really happening, but you can feel a lot, you can sense a lot. It's telling you a story, these long pauses. And this long pause, it's maybe between 5 and 10 seconds long, I'm not entirely sure, and it's Yoshiki looking straight down, the shadow cast over his eyes, his hair over his eyes, sensing nothing from him. You're not getting a read on him. And then when he lifts his head, he's putting on this strained fake smile, and it looks very forced, and it's telling you a lot about him and his character, the fact that he is putting on this fake smile, and he says, I'm in, let's go to the beach next time. And yeah, he's trying really hard here, but you can tell, you can see from staring at him that this is not real. He's just saying the words that Hikaru wants to hear. We end up back at Yoshiki's house, and yeah, we see him take his shoes off, say, I'm back, you know, very much back to his by the rules kind of way. Like, he's very in his ways, and you know, he does everything by the book. And we see him do that again here, and then he heads upstairs, and he just leaves Yoshiki downstairs, and it's very like, well, are you going to invite him up? Like, it's kind of how it feels. But yeah, they end up back here anyway because it's too hot apparently. And there's yet another long pause with Yoshiki not in the scene, and Hikaru kind of just looking ahead. After Yoshiki went upstairs, Yoshiki's just down there, kind of just like stun locked, almost not sure what to do. We see Hikaru with the two finger puppets, and he has them together initially, and these are, you know, the power of friendship, you know, Gon and Killua, or, you know, whoever they are within this series, and he splits them apart, and that's then when you see his face looking very unsure and just kind of straight face staring ahead. And yeah, it's obviously in relation to Hikaru and Yoshiki. This kind of splitting of the friendship is how it seems, and you know, growing distance further apart and everything like that. It's yeah. And Hikaru's the one that's sensing that. Hikaru's the one that's doing that with these finger puppets, because yeah, he's not stupid, despite the fact that this is his first time being alive in a body and everything like that. He can sense these things, especially the person he knows the most. He can sense it from him, and that being Yoshiki, of course. Hikaru asks how the two characters, Ron and I don't even remember the other guy's name, but Gon and Killua, how they got so close. And Yoshiki says because they're the only friends that each other has. They're the best friends. They're each other's best friend in the world. And yeah, that's how these things go, right? How they're so close because they're best friends. It's yet again about these two characters right in front of us. But before they can talk any more about it, Yoshiki says, oh, I got a video of the performance from earlier. So he pulls up the video and Hikaru immediately pops up out of bed and wants to watch it. He's so excited, and you can hear the singing, and Hikaru is dead set on watching this thing while Yoshiki is watching Hikaru watch it. It's very, very interesting. He's watching his reaction. And yeah, like this Hikaru, like he loved performing the song. He really got into it, and he starts to say things like, man, maybe I should have been there, because he knows he would have had a great time. He knows he would have loved this because he had been getting ready for this and preparing for this and loving this for so long. And he is so happy watching his friends. He's saying, wow, they sound so great. This is amazing. And yeah, that's then when he starts to sing along, and he's just very innocently singing along to the song that he has been training for and preparing for so long. And then it's once he's singing, you know, this pounding in my heart and everything like that, that's when Yoshiki stands up and he walks away. And then we get this really creepy, ominous, like zipping, and it's cutting really quick cuts and everything to showing like something just terrible happening here. Well, it's not very quick cuts, but it's like a really slow fade. Like it's just off-putting, and it's not normal, and it's giving you a sense of unease and a sense of dread. And we see Yoshiki walking towards Hikaru with his hand behind his back, and then we see the blade handle. We just see the handle of a blade, and then it cuts to black yet again as Hikaru saying, whoa, dear friend, and he doesn't, yet again, just like with the movie, doesn't finish the word friend. And yeah, that says a lot. When these two are together, the word friend is not uttered within this episode, but the others were singing the word friend, you know, no problem and everything like that. But anytime the word friend was uttered with these two characters right here, the word was never finished. And it's once the friend is mentioned that we see this, once again, this hand-drawn drawing of the knife stabbing through. And the way that this is drawn in such a way, it's unnatural, it's not right, it just feels so out of place. Just like what Yoshiki is doing here. It's out of character, and this visual image drawing, it's out of place, I guess you could say, within this episode. There's a long pause where there's just darkness after the blade comes through, and then eventually we cut back to the finger puppets lying on the floor with the phone between them. You know, very symbolic. These two friends, the power of friendship characters on opposite ends of this phone, this gap between them, the phone acting as a gap, a barrier between them, and the barrier being all these other people, these other friends. And that can be symbolic of the way Yoshiki feels, where these are real people, these are real friends, whereas on the other side is someone who he doesn't know. You know, it can be played in that sense, it could be spun in that sense, I guess, because yeah, otherwise it's just very sad and upsetting. And of course the crack in the screen showing the crack in the relationship, the crack in the friendship, and just how everything's not normal, everything's not right, everything is not okay. And that's then when we see Yoshiki buried into Hikaru's chest, and he stabbed him. There is blood pooling out of him. It is very worrying because yeah, this is not okay, and it's just really sad and upsetting that things have got to this point, right? Hikaru's eyes dilate. It looks like someone's about to throw up. I'm guessing maybe Yoshiki. I don't know what happened so fast. And then we see the blade embedded within this chest of Hikaru, and it's very like quick pace editing here, just to feel the intensity, feel just how intense and like quick all of this happened. But the interesting thing is, right before this there was just a long take where like they were just buried into one another, and then once the reality of everything sets in, it starts to go really fast, and Yoshiki collapses to the ground. He's staring at the blood in his own hands. He can't believe it. His eyes are manic. The sweat is beating down his head. It's dripping down his face, and he cannot believe what he's done. He's seeing the blood in his hands. The blood, of course, makes it seem more human, more real, but we know that this is not a real human anymore. And yeah, the whole situation, terrible. And it's ironic, you know, considering the whole song being about moving forward and everything like that with the ghost of the past. And here he is trying to send the ghost to the past, you know, leave it behind, kill off the one that he loved and leave that in the past. And that can't happen here because, of course, Hikaru cannot die. And Hikaru is in disbelief. He cannot believe that this happened. Yoshiki cannot believe that he did this. And yeah, it's frantic, it's manic, and it's chaotic, and it's terrifying at the same time. There's a comment about, I knew that you wouldn't die, and then you see the eye dripping from Hikaru. So it's almost like this facade fizzling away and like he's dripping out into his real form. I don't know how to interpret like the eye drip and everything like that, but there's some symbolic meaning behind it, of course. I guess it could be that this is Yoshiki killing off his friend, and all that's left behind now is this fake version of Hikaru, which we start to see come through. Maybe that's what it's kind of telling us. And yeah, Yoshiki saying, I thought I could change you. I thought I could teach you to be different. I thought I could teach you how to be a person, everything like this. And obviously, after what happened with Asuko, he cannot be friends with this person. He needs to distance himself. That's how he feels right now, because he tried to kill one of his best friends. Not just one of Yoshiki's best friends, but one of Hikaru's best friends too. How tragic would that have been? And so Yoshiki is saying he's sorry, and Hikaru's like, you hung out with me all day. Were you plotting this from the beginning? And Yoshiki says, I wanted to give you the best day. I wanted to give you a great day. One of the best days of your life, basically. I wanted you to enjoy this day. And so Yoshiki says, if you can't die, kill me instead. Because he does not want to live in this world. He does not want to live knowing everything that's going on. He cannot. It's too painful. It's too hard for him. And I feel so sorry for him. I feel so bad. It really breaks my heart to see this right here. And of course, Hikaru is in disbelief about this. And all he can ask, is that a request? Are you requesting me to do this? And then that's when we hear Hikaru's inner thoughts, where he's like, what do? I don't want to do this, but this is a request. I have to do it, but what do? I don't want to do it. It's frantic, it's chaotic, and it adds so much depth to this fake Haru character, because he doesn't want to kill his friend. Like, I know that this is not like the roles being, you know, Hikaru and Yoshiki, like, it's so interesting because on one hand, one wants to distance himself from the other, and the other is so dependent and reliant on the other that he cannot bear to think of a world without him, never mind having to be the one to kill him. And it also makes it interesting because of Hikaru's whole relationship with death and what he said in the previous episode, where it's like, you know, life and death aren't so different. You humans, I don't understand like what you grasp to life for and all this, because all that changes is the shape of your soul. Nothing else really changes. You're still the same. And so now that he's saying like, I don't want to kill you, I don't want to do this, it's making a point that he is starting to recognize the difference between life and death, especially with humans. And I wonder if that's going to come up in the future, because yeah, this really contradicts some of the stuff he was saying in the previous episode, this Hikaru character. And so it's making me think that he is learning, he is adjusting, and he is learning some things. But maybe it's just because it's Yoshiki. Maybe it's specifically because it's Yoshiki. If it was anyone else, wouldn't really see it that way. And we start to hear Hikaru thinking, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And the background, everything gets so chaotic and cluttered. And yeah, I don't know what is happening in the background. There's symbols, there might be text, there's a scratchy filter. It looks very like VHS-y. It's insane just how chaotic it gets within Hikaru's mind, where he's thinking all these things because he doesn't want to do this. And then we cut back to Hikaru with tears streaming down his face. Very opposite to what we just saw with the chaos. But the way it was done was incredible, because it was like a drip of whatever this being is within Hikaru kind of dripping down, and then it turns into a tear. So it's kind of like giving you this sense of this being within Hikaru. It's slowly learning to become human, because it's transitioning into a real human thing, this tear. And yeah, it's just so cool and interesting, and I really love it so much. I love the way that was done. It was really cool. Hikaru wipes his tears and says he doesn't value life enough, and that he recognizes that this is a big deal for Yoshiki, even though it isn't for him, and so he needs to start treating it as such. But even when he says it's not a big deal for him, he says, I think. So yeah, he recognizes what the problem is with him, why he's so different in everything, and then that's when he reaches into his chest and pulls out half of his being. So I don't know if that makes him mortal. I don't really know what it means, but it means a great deal, because he is trying to bring himself to a similar level as Yoshiki, and so he's making himself more vulnerable, and Yoshiki doesn't know why he's doing this. He can't believe that he's doing this, and it's a really great way for Hikaru to show that he is willing to change, and he is willing to learn, and he is willing to be like Yoshiki, be more human. And yeah, it's quite terrifying when he does reach in and pull this thing out. It's very like, ooh, like what is happening? Like it's quite scary, because we don't know what's happening. We're not told what's happening until after. And it's really cool seeing the shot of Yoshiki looking up and the effect coming off of bouncing off of his face. And it is almost like a romantic gesture in a way when he presents half of his being to Yoshiki. That seems like a romantic gesture if I'm being honest, but I know that it's presented in a different kind of way. So it's just really cool that they're taking an idea like that and presenting it in a kind of horror, like body horror kind of way. I don't know how to describe that better. When asked why he would do this, Hikaru says he doesn't even know what he is. He's got all these memories inside him. He doesn't know if he's ever felt emotions. He doesn't know what part of him is him and what part of him isn't him. And so he wants to learn, and he cannot learn if he is different. And so he is making himself more like Yoshiki. He cannot kill as easily. He cannot do all these things as easily. He's making himself more human, more like Yoshiki, so that he can learn, so that he can be like them, be like these other people. And I think it's very, very admirable. And it's interesting, the character arc that Hikaru is going on here. And yeah, it's really weird hearing him say again that he would have just killed Yoshiki initially, but he grew attached and grew close to him, so he couldn't. Hikaru recalls when Yoshiki learned, and despite the fact that this was a horrifying scene and terrible scene for Yoshiki, we see that this is actually quite a beautiful scene for Hikaru. And it's like a rebirth scene, because for the first time ever, he's been accepted. He's no longer been outcast. He's no longer been seen as different or anything like that. And someone needed him. And so he felt special. He felt like he was needed. He loved this. And you see the tears streaming down his face. Emotion, maybe for the first time in his life. These emotions of just overwhelming joy, sadness, everything all at once, just culminating. So it gives the scene a whole different light, because in a way you could say this is the scene where Hikaru died, because it's the scene where Yoshiki learned the truth. I know that he literally died in a different time and everything like that, but for Yoshiki, this is when Hikaru, the idea of Hikaru died. And for Hikaru, this is the scene where Hikaru was born. So there was like a birth and a death here for the two different characters. So it's a complete, like, it's such a great scene the way this was done. This particular shot was shown to us so late, like 7 episodes later, because it gives a different spin on this for the other character, whereas we only saw Yoshiki's side of things, and now we're seeing Hikaru's. And yeah, it's so different. And yeah, Hikaru says that Yoshiki became a home to him. So it's this dependency, which is quite toxic, but, you know, he is a little baby bird, as Yoshiki says, that is just clinging to the first person or first thing that he sees. Hikaru's like, even if that's the case, I'm fine with that, because he doesn't know anything different. He doesn't know any other life. He just knows this. And so he's fine with this. He's happy with this. But then we start to get into Yoshiki's thoughts, where Yoshiki's thinking like, I can't expect him to understand, and you know, the way life works, the way death works, we're living in completely different worlds. The way we view the world, the way we view everything is so different between us, but still he cannot say goodbye. And yeah, I was talking about it during the episode. There is, of course, this beam of light that cuts across them, and you know, Yoshiki ends up reaching across it. And yeah, symbolic of the fact that within the scene, he no longer distances himself. He reaches across and accepts that he can't say goodbye to Hikaru. He doesn't want to. He cannot. Despite knowing better at this point, he can't. And yeah, he calls himself an idiot, as we see his perspective through the lens of his hair. And once again, we see he's not looking at Hikaru. He can't look at Hikaru. He just sees like a body, right? And yeah, it's just showing how he feels in these moments, because right after that, he does look up at Hikaru as he thinks that he's going to stick with him. And when he thinks to himself, even if something inside me breaks, I'll stick by you. And you can only assume that means his heart or something else, because yeah, what more does he have to lose at this point? He's lost Hikaru. Like, this isn't Hikaru, but he is clinging to that anyway. And this little token is a good example of the fact that this Hikaru is willing to change and learn. And yeah, it's a good first step, and it'll be interesting to see where things go from here. And yeah, then, you know, very strangely, Yoshiki says, I don't think you should be here though. I don't think you're supposed to be here. So even if you're going to stay, we need to do some research. But as he's saying all this, he sees blood over everything. You know, he's still worried about what Hikaru could do. He could kill all his friends. He could kill everyone. Everything about this day. He's seeing all the things about today. You know, the movie theater, going out on the riverside, the school and everything, covered in blood, because the whole day has been tarnished by blood. The whole day has been ruined by this blood on his hands. And so he's worried about what could come. He's worried about the future, but he's willing to accept that they can do some research and potentially change what is happening. And yeah, that's when the episode ends then. But not before there's more horror imagery of this thing that Hikaru is kind of like, you know, morphing and then swallowing up Yoshiki. Obviously that doesn't happen. I don't know if that's what Hikaru is thinking in these moments or what, but yeah, scary stuff. And yet again, you know, you see the light between them, the distance, the gap. But they're looking at each other and there's going to be change. And yeah, this filter is terrifying. And I don't think this really happened. I'm pretty sure it didn't. But yeah, it makes you, you know, very much aware right at the end of this episode, despite the beautiful moment they had, that this is still a monster. It's still the monster within Hikaru, and you can't get too comfortable because this thing is still there. Then we get the beautiful singing from, I don't know if it's both the boys, Hikaru and Yoshiki. Maybe it's just Hikaru, maybe it's just Yoshiki, who knows, singing this song. It's very beautiful, and it really is just a great way to finish out this episode. It was a truly incredible episode, one of the best, probably the best for this season easily. And yeah, I'm so glad that we were able to check this, and what a great episode this was. There might be more that I could have talked about that I'm forgetting. We didn't see the company guy, we didn't see any of that stuff this episode, so that's going to come up down the line. You know, this episode, you could say it was pure cinema, of course. And yeah, I'm just glad that we were able to check this one out. I'm so glad that I was able to do this for the channel. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you've not done so already, and comment down below letting me know what you got up to last week. And yeah, that's going to do it for me for today. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when these videos go live. They're kind of being uploaded randomly these days. I used to have a schedule, but you know, because I was so busy, I'm kind of just uploading when I can right now. So apologies for that. If you're watching this in the future, this won't be a problem, but also still consider hitting the bell so that you can be notified when other videos do go live on the channel. Share this with someone who might enjoy, and there's a new hype button. Hit that if you're here within the first, I don't know, week or something. And yeah, that's going to do it for me for today. I hope that you guys are having a great day today and that you're able to take it easy. I will see you in the next one. Take care.